Okay, so let's put this aside as like a red flag that we don't want to get into. Complaints and personal experience are a good thing, but I want to propose another option here. Um, you probably all heard of the idea of niching down. I talk about this a lot on Twitter. I also talk about the fear of niching down. It's like, oh, but my app can be used by everybody. If I niche down, I lose 99% of the market. Well, you can't actually access 100% of the market without whatever market you're in. Like if your total addressable market is 2 billion people, you can, as a solo developer, do that. Even a funded company can do it. Even funded companies, big companies like Uber, like Tinder, started with tiny, minuscule niches. Uber started out with a single intersection in San Francisco, in downtown San Francisco, where there were lots of bars around. They brought, I don't remember, I think a couple dozen drivers to that place on a Friday night at midnight to pick up people who were coming out of bars. That was the niche they were focusing on. It was that small. Not a city, not a neighborhood, not even a street. A single point in space and time. And only after that worked, they were able to expand to more areas in San Francisco and then to other cities and to other places in the world. This is a huge company, and it was funded even back at that time, and they still went after a tiny niche. So my suggestion for us as well is to start with a niche hypothesis. I think that neurosurgeons in the States speaking English might want my voice-based note-taking idea for surgeons, because the surgeries are very long. I just know this because my mom at one point in her life underwent a 19-hour surgery on her brain. So like I just know this from experience, right? So my hypothesis for something like this, and I'm not building it, I'm just coming up with ideas on the fly. But my hypothesis here is that in this specific profession, in this specific set of circumstances, for this specific kind of person, there is this specific kind of problem, which is I need to record what I'm doing. 19 hours of a voice recording is impossible to work through, and there's something missing there. That's a niche hypothesis and a problem hypothesis. And now if I talk to 5 or 7 or 10 neurosurgeons, I will find this problem actually exists for this niche or not. Does this make sense? All right. And now we come to the end of our, I think, thing. Because if we start from personal experience, or if we start from complaints you've heard, or just an idea or something, then you can come up with a niche hypothesis. You have an idea. The reason I'm talking about note-taking is because I think, Christian, I think you have an idea that is around note-taking, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just playing around with your idea. It's true for everything. It's true if you think that people need to learn things, and there is so much YouTube content. There is so much YouTube content online that people can't filter through that. It's still, you need to figure out what kind of people. There are knowledge workers, there are students, there are high school students, there are college students, postdocs. Where are they? What the situation is? What country do they live in? How much pressure are they under? Law students? You still need to figure out what kind of people you want to be talking to. One of the reasons that having a good niche hypothesis is useful is because if you don't, you can't find people to talk to. Like if you're building something that could be used by everybody, how can you find a sample of everybody to talk to? How can you even approach that? But if you start with a narrow group of people, it's like, well, postdoctoral students studying or building something in AI in Ivy League universities in the United States, for example, and the States is often a good market, then there are lists of these people online. There are ways to reach out to them. They have professors. If you can get in touch with their professors, you can get in touch with their students, and so on and so forth. It becomes a lot easier. It also becomes a lot easier to evaluate whether this niche is accessible to you or not. Sometimes like, well, the niche I'm looking for is astronauts. Well, might be a little more difficult to find them. Although you can find anybody. It's possible to find any kind of person in the world with a little bit of effort.
I have a question.
Please.
So niche hypothesis, isn't it about just to find a group of people and validate if they are an existing group, they are capable of paying, they have a need for software at all, but they are using software tools, right? So first you need to validate the niche, like this is an existing group who needs like software, who has like problems that is solvable and with software, and they have the money and they are willing to pay. Like programmers are like famously unwilling to pay, right?
That is true. But I think you validate eventually you validate the niche, the problem, and the solution all at once. Because even grandmas could use some sort of software if it's on the phone and it doesn't seem like software, and they have, it works within their frame of reference because they want to see more photos of their grandchildren. Right? Like it really, you can't separate the niche from the willingness to pay from the problem from the solution, because the willingness to pay depends on whether you're solving the right problem and whether you're charging the right amount. For example, people in India, I believe, are commonly understood to not want to pay for online services. But there are Pakistan as well. Sure. However, you're here, so there obviously are Indian people and Pakistani people who are willing to pay for certain types of services in certain circumstances. Right. It's also not true that everybody in Pakistan or in India are poor. There's a great amount of rich people or middle-class people, even by Western standards, in both countries. There's 1.2 billion people in India and a few 100,000 in Pakistan.
100 million.
200. Oh, sorry. 100 million.
Yeah.
Not 100,000.
I wish 100,000.
It would be very nice. Yeah. Less densely populated. And within such a large population, there are different people with different needs, different financial abilities, different desires, and different ways to think about technology. So a good niche hypothesis is not a very easy thing. And we'll talk next time about how, we'll dive a little deeper into how to find good niches. We'll do something easier today. I will send you this diagram after we're done. How does this feel? Is it clear? Is it weird? Is it more confusing? Are you more confused than you were before? Does it feel overwhelmingly long and impossible? Give me a little bit of feedback.
It feels like, it feels very intuitive. But one thing that I keep thinking about is, but not, this is a niche is a dynamic thing. Hypothesis is a dynamic thing. There's many different ways to define it. So right now, let's say there are two ways in my mind that I would target a niche. One niche is people who are into self-improvement.
Just a second. We'll dive into an easy way to find a niche in just a second. You're totally right. Well, that's actually the next stage of our discussion today. We'll take one technique to find a niche, and we'll explore that practically. I just wanted to see if the path from an idea to a profitable business, I'll share that again so we can just go through that. You start with an idea, maybe it's based on a personal experience, maybe you already, in fact, it could be an idea, it could even be a product. You would still need to go through the same thing. Like you could have a fully built product, but if you don't have users and you haven't validated the problem, then you still need to go through the same thing to find paying customers. You start with this, you formulate some kind of hypothesis about a niche, about the kind of people, and you formulate some kind of a problem hypothesis. And then here, problem validation is key because you need to have conversations with people within this niche about this problem. So they can tell you at the very least, this is a problem. This is a problem that if you solve it for me, I will pay you money. That's the first step.
Right.
You don't need 100 people to tell you that, but you need a few. You need some people to tell you, you know what? I'll pay you a couple $100 a month for this because this is a really big problem for me. Or I will pay you $3 a month for this because it's not a big problem. Depending on which end you end up with, you need to consider how can you scale this, like to become a business. Is this a valuable thing for you to chase? And once you have problem validation, once you have an understanding that connects the niche and the problem, then you can figure out if the solution matches. Because in my example with the surgeons, a solution could be an AI app, it could be a recording tool, it could be a marketplace for recruiting people who would transcribe notes. It could be something that completely changes the way the operating room operates so that notes don't need to be taken. Maybe it's a live viewing thing for other doctors. Like, who knows what actually is the solution to the problem once you identify the problem. In some cases, the solution is not even software, it's a service. In some cases, it's a combination of these things. Now, the only thing that is not true here is that this looks like a waterfall thing. Like we go from one step to another. We build the full product based on the full solution validation. In reality, we kind of float around through these steps. You have some niche hypothesis, you start discussing problems, you discover that there is a potential problem in a niche that is kind of a sub-niche of your original hypothesis. So you update this and you update this and you talk about problem validation and you realize that you need to shift it a little bit. And as you're talking about the solution, sometimes the problem you're solving changes a little bit and so on and so forth. So it's not a linear progression from one state to the next. But you can't really build a product that has a chance in hell of succeeding without having a good sense of what your solution is supposed to be. Like there is the weight of each stage changes. You do all of them, but at first you put a lot of effort into the niche. Later you kind of discuss the problem in depth. Then you discuss the solution in depth, and so on and so forth. And like I said, this doesn't have to happen. Sometimes you can go from problem validation to solution validation to paying customers directly without building a product. For example, you can offer a service and then build a product. Or you can get people to prepay you for a product that will be built, like with Kickstarter or similar models, where people would charge like an early bird fee, which is a big discount for the actual product, and then deliver the product. We'll talk about that method at some point later.